So like I mentioned, next we'll go over a really interesting use case for eReplen, and Michael Wood and Grant Levy will be sharing the story here. So Michael and Grant, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, thanks, Gio.
Awesome. Thank
Just
you.
to quickly introduce myself, my name's Grant Levy. I'm on the customer solutions team here, and Michael is with Delta Faucet at the Jackson site. I know you gave an introduction earlier. We just wanted to walk through a few slides to talk about eReplen, which is an application that we've built out at the Jackson site. So we'll kind of handle this presentation in a joint format, and Michael can kind of give his insight onto what they've learned from this application, how they're using it today, some of the dashboard capabilities and whatnot. But this whole story started a year ago, kind of in pre-COVID times, when I was out in Jackson visiting Michael at their facility. And we were kind of doing a site assessment for tulip use cases. And we were kind of walking through the floor, and Michael pointed out this, this dashboard or physical board you see on the left side. And that's kind of an immediate red flag for, at least for tulip use cases, right? Because that's something that's typically like very easy to digitize. So we got to talking about this, and I think we ended up building like the first iteration of the app in like 3 hours when we were on site. And obviously we've expanded it significantly from there. But we presented it at the end of my trip, and I think the immediate impact or potential was kind of recognized by the site. So Michael's put in a ton of work to help kind of guide this process, and we've worked together on deploying, the application that we see on the right side. So the general use case, you can stay on that side, Gio, for a second. The general use case is, the team at Delta Faucet runs an operation where they have spiders, water spiders, and material handlers kind of supplying different aspects of the facility. So a spider is running material from their local supermarkets to the assembly lines, and material handlers are kind of managing the inventory and stock in the supermarkets. And Michael, stop me if I'm misspeaking or if there's any other details to add there. So we have these two distinct roles that are effectively, they're working in the same value stream. They're essentially, working together to ensure that the assembly line is getting their material on time. And the previous system was that physical magnet board that, what's essentially represented there is, this large matrix of every part or component that's stored in that supermarket. And what essentially water spiders were previously doing is they were using different colored magnets to indicate on the board when material was out of stock and when they needed a restock buy to make sure that the assembly line's production sequence wasn't going to be impacted. Now, as you can imagine, ensuring that a material handler is in the right spot at the right time to recognize these requests and be able to respond to them in time, it wasn't, it wasn't a super efficient mechanism, because they'd have to walk by or drive by these magnet boards. They'd have to recognize that a part's out of stock and that it's out of and it needed to be prioritized soon. And they needed to, be able to then go out, get the material and restock it in time. And additionally, they had really, I think pretty basic data capture from that original process. So when a material handler does make a request, they would scan a barcode to signal to their ERP. But they didn't have any way to visualize that data real time. And there was no data around, how long these requests from spiders were staying open, how many requests were being made, what the most common requests were. And those are all things that we thought we could, digitize that thread of communication and really kind of expand both from a functionality perspective and then also from an analytic perspective, and give significantly more insight. Anything else I should add about the previous state, Michael?
I think that pretty much sums up what we're doing here. I know in the interest of time, we'll move through that presentation.
Well, so yeah, perfect. So, the current application we see on the right side, and so we decided to use Tulip as a medium to digitize that communication. So material handlers could, create a manual request, or spiders could create a manual request. Material handlers can travel with the tablet and see it real time populate. And they're able to, wherever they are in the facility, they're able to see what's the highest priority item on their list, and they're able to respond to that in turn. We can also send notifications if there's parts that kind of pass their due period, or the hour that they're due within. And we'll get more into the dashboard capabilities, but effectively we can see a significantly more granular breakdown of the data. So here's just a quick, like a detailed visual of the application that we've proceeded to build out. So we have an interactive table that's getting populated through an intermediary SQL database. So Michael's been working with the Jackson team on effectively getting data from their ERP into a mechanism that Tulip can access. And so we use the SQL database to kind of manage that. And what happens is we have the spider view on the left side of the screen here and the material handler on the right side. So a spider view they can generate new requests by pressing the manual request button. They'll specify the material that they need, the location that they need it in, when they need it by, how many pieces. And then there's certain metadata that gets stored about that request, like when it was requested, who did the request, who requested it. We can also, the spiders can also view any comments on past requests that they've made. So if I'm coming due for a period and I see that something I've requested hasn't been complete, they can actually click on that request and view any comments that the material handler may have left. And you can see the status changes that a material handler might be able to make on the right side of the screen. And they can also access dashboards. So they can get a real-time visual of how many requests that they're making, how many have been fulfilled, what are the outstanding requests still that may impact their delivery to a assembly sequence, and so on. And we can actually, sorry, you can stay on that side for just another minute. We can also track this by user and department. So one of the big things for us was being able to build a scalable application that could support the entire site, regardless of departments and being visualized independently. So eReplen, it's a single application that is ultimately being rolled out to the entire facility, and we'll get a little bit more in detail there. The last note on the material handler view is we've digitized the mechanism for displaying the barcode that they were previously scanning to transact into their ERP. So we see that that scannable barcode on the right side. And we're actually looking right now that uses an embedded iframe to display that, but we actually have a release scheduled, I think in the next 1 or 2 releases in November for barcode generation in Tulip. So being able to handle that within the platform. Any questions, I guess, on the application so far? Otherwise, we can just take them at the end.
Right. So if there's no questions yet, so I think from this dashboard capability, before I just give a quick high-level overview of what we're doing from a dashboard standpoint, I just like to point out that Delta's known for some time that they need to move into a different direction to stay competitive and to pick up ground in our field. So we've been looking at multiple different companies, benchmarking different people, and the one thing that I find out is whenever I go to a company and tell me that they say we've got a smart factory, you can come benchmark us, I get there and it's nothing similar to what we do. So we build, on any given day, we put out over 30,000 faucets out of the Jackson plant alone. So that's about 1.2 million component parts that go into those. And then we've got anywhere from 8,000 to 9,000 different changeovers. So we move fast. So we go anywhere from 4-second cycle times to 35-second, up to 3.5 minutes, depending on the product line. But everyone I've benchmarked, we don't see that type of complexity. So from a quality standpoint, we wanted to get in something here to help us. But what we found out is quality is hard to sell a price tag by itself. So with that being said, that's why we've looked into this productivity side to sell Tulip to our corporate team. And with this use case alone, I mean, we've more than paid for the price tag of Tulip with the productivity gains. So with that being said, just quick thing on this dashboard is, you know, we went out there and we told everybody when we was trying to sell an Industry 4.0 software that, you know, we can give you real-time data display. And you can do that with Tulip. So we can break it down multiple different ways. But one of the challenges we faced at Jackson is once we have that ability, figuring out what people really want to see. What kind of data do you want to see live that would actually help you do the job? So with that being said, we're able to give those team leaders the ability to see how many requests are being made per hour so that they can redirect labor from other departments into that area, as to where before we had fixed numbers of operators that worked for each value stream. So this is just, like I said, just some quick snapshots of what we do with our dashboards and our inquiries. So we also, you know, the management team, they like to inquire the data to see what each person or what each area has been requesting or outputting. What are those hours of the day where we're seeing the biggest jumps? So things like that is what we're looking at here from a dashboard and inquiry standpoint. So
yeah, no, that's great. And you know, every completion that happens in the application, you know, whether it be from a new request being made to a request being fulfilled to a separate status, you know, we're storing that data in Tulip, and you know, it becomes, you know, then, you know, Michael being able to visualize the data in whichever way is most beneficial for the folks on the floor. You know, but you know, there's no longer just the relying on the ERP and how, you know, how many transactions are kind of being finalized. You know, they have much more granular data to break that down.
Yep.
And just to like give a sense of the scope of this application, because I think that can be helpful when imagining this, right? Like we're talking about right now, I believe eReplen is rolled out to the DST monitor and luxury
traditional, and we just recently rolled out the monitor. So DST
Okay.
is coming within the next week or two, and it'll be, you know, a large scale on its own.
Yeah. So we're and again, we're talking about the same application that is able to differentiate between the different departments and support all concurrently. You know, when we talk about rolling out to DST, it's really getting additional tablets and getting Tulip installed on those tablets. And once they're installed and the users have accounts, you know, I think the stand-up time is, you know, it's a really quick turnaround. But we have, how many spiders and material handlers would you say we have on Tulip today?
We're probably looking close to 45, maybe total tablets out there on the floor.
Yeah, and we're looking at adding, and I think the latest was another
37 for DST, and then we'll have our RP area. So we'll be over 100 tablets just on the floor themselves, plus team leaders of those areas. We put in the request for the dual monitors for every one of these team leaders that's supporting these areas, so that they can full-time monitor Tulip on one monitor for their computer, and then use the other one for their everyday job.
Great. Now, so I've asked Michael to collect some, you know, findings from his team, both from his perspective, the team leaders' perspective who are working with this on a daily basis. And Michael, I don't know if you want to kind of walk through these changes. I think the biggest thing I wanted to make clear was like, this application has been highly iterative. I think we've gone from, you know, we built the first concept in a few hours to demo, and as soon as, you know, we saw the potential, you know, we kind of built up the capabilities in a single version, and then we kind of upgraded to eReplen v2, which is, you know, a major revision that allowed us to. That was really our prep for the additional departments coming online. So being able to like build out the application so that it was able to differentiate between those. But like, this is something that we routinely make changes to. I think we're on 40 plus versions being published, and it's I think you've managed a lot of that yourself based on feedback from the line, which has been awesome to see.
Right. Yeah, like I said, we recently deployed into the monitor value stream this last week, and quickly found out there were some changes need to be made on the fly to accommodate monitor, because it runs at such higher volumes than the areas we had been supporting. So those changes pretty much went flawlessly. So no issues there with that rollout. I'm gonna knock on some wood so I'm not getting a phone call here in about 5 minutes, but no issues there. And I mean, they're wanting me to roll out into the DST area next week, which is our biggest of the 4 assembly areas. And I mean, everybody wants more, right? I can't build apps fast enough for all the use cases that are popping up over the plant. But like I said, one of the big wins is just that productivity gain we've seen from our material handlers, going from 12 to 14 requests per hour up to 16 to 20. So without them having to drive back and forth, look at those boards, they're getting those requests on the fly, right? So as soon as someone puts in one, it pops up, and then it's prioritizing those requests. And then again, our team leaders have the ability to see anything that's marked no inventory that was supposed to be for a hot order. They quickly are alerted to that, and they can rebalance that schedule and decrease downtime on our assembly lines. So there's a lot more things there. And just from a room for improvement, I mean, really not on the Tulip side as much as the way we manage our application, and enhancements that may need to be made on our side to better control the process, to make sure what requests are being put in for what priority are really what needs to be done. But I know Grant's got some things he wants to share that will, talk about future state.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing we've seen is like, eReplen is focused on a very specific process, right, between the spiders and the material handlers. But there's really a third party who's kind of critical in this operation, which is the assembly line itself. And Gio, you can move to the next slide here. And I'll try and get through this quickly because I know Brian is on deck. But this is a diagram. If anybody on the call knows Mark Friedman, this is something that he helped create, and he's really passionate about this stuff, which is awesome. But Michael has the primary area of loss is really if a spider isn't able, like if a material handler isn't able to respond to a spider in time, it's not the spider who's ultimately like suffering the consequences, right? It's the assembly line who is, they're working on a sequence of parts, that they're expecting to be properly kind of the material to be like at their location when they need it. And so if we have short picks or we have parts that are out of stock, we need a better way to insulate the assembly line from that process. And what that means is really 3 connected streams of communication. We need an assembly line to be able to indicate to the spiders, where they are at in their process. We need spiders to be able to indicate to both the material handler, the assembly techs, and other spiders who might be picking for the same sequence. But we need them to be able to, if I am unable to make a complete pick, I need to alert other spiders that, they might need to pick, do a short pick as well, so that, they don't have excess parts at the assembly line. I need to alert the material handler that there's an urgent request that they need to respond to. And I need to alert the assembly line that, there's a potential that their sequence is going to get changed based on, whatever a team leader decides on their, as the right approach. So we're trying to like build out this expanded application, and it's something that's currently in the works. And so we don't have a functional demo, but we do have the next page, which is kind of the immediate interface that's starting to be built, which is, this is again the water spider's view that they may be looking at, but they have certain routes that they're picking for. They have certain periods throughout a day or areas in a production area that they're looking to, they're responsible for making the picks for. We can see a sequence of orders that that have been picked for. If there was any issues in any of those picks, they'd come back as red, or if they were in progress, they'd come back as yellow. And this is just a way, this is a common thread where if I'm, if there's 3 spiders that are picking for the same assembly line for the same sequence, they might be picking different material. This is a way for them to be able to indicate in real time to each other what is going on. So there's, the pick tickets that they're responsible for are on the bottom left, and the details of those pick tickets and the quantities that they need to pick is in that bottom right here. So, it's really this hierarchy of picks happening and being able to communicate that back to the other team members and giving them, the best possible information moving forward, so that, if an assembly line reaches a piece that's been, eventually, the goal is that an assembly line never, hopefully never has an issue, because if any short picks are identified or missing pieces, we've appropriately responded to that and adjusted the sequence in turn. So, that's kind of the end state, and there's some other additional components there. But yeah, I think that's
that sums it up. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Grant. That was really interesting to see. I mean, I've been hearing a lot about it, but it's always interesting to, I think it is really good use case, and it's good to hear that it's, more functionality is being built in. Yeah, and are there any questions from folks for Michael and Grant here?
Yeah, I had
No, I just want to know which kind of device you used with this application. Is more classical barcode scanner, or which kind of device is linked to your application for picking, for example?
So from Delta standpoint, I mean, we looked at hardware that's low cost point, right? So we want to go Android route because we got so many spiders. So we're running this on the Tab A, the 2019 Tab A Android tablets, and we're using Bluetooth barcode scanners with those tablets. So that's what we're using, majority.
Thanks.
Perfect, thanks. Was there another question that I heard coming in?
Yeah, I just had one quick question. So on the last slide, there was a table that kind of had the statuses displayed. Yeah, and so how do you feed in the color on there for, in process, done, and alert?
Yeah, so that's a Mark Friedman special.
Is that an emoji?
Yeah, so he's actually using emojis. So depending on the operating system that you're looking at, they may look slightly different. So that's the screenshot that it looks like from a Mac, but I know the Windows devices are a little bit different. But he actually, he uses emojis to signal that color, and there's effectively emojis for, I think, just about every color. So we're not necessarily limited to just the 4 shown there.
Yeah, that's such a brilliant, that's such a brilliant.
Yeah.
Looking at that, and I was just like, that's in a text field. I was like, that's really intelligent. Definitely,
Yeah.
That's a really powerful way to show data.
Awesome. Well, great. Thanks